Yes, people, welcome back to Weekly Surgery, the Albert J TV practice, people. Episode 17, I believe it is. I need to double check, but I'm sure it's 17 people. But before we get into it, let's smash the intro. And there you have it, people. Surround intro into Albert J TV's Weekly Surgery, people. The practice is officially open for the next hour or so. Maybe it's a little bit over, but people, obliterate the like button if you haven't already, which I'm sure you will do at some point when you watch this either live now or on the rerun, and subscribe to Albert J TV, people. People, hopefully Kenny Ken will join us. He's a busy man. He's on another podcast as we speak at the moment, so hopefully he'll join us very soon. And James, shout out. I know you're not feeling too well, mate. I know you're meant to come on tonight, but get well soon, mate. And you'll be back on Albert J TV sooner than you think, bro. So much love to you, man. But as you can see, people, I've got another member of the Albert J TV Arsenal family on the panel. G Talks Arsenal. Welcome back to Weekly Surgery. How you doing, bro?
Listen, bro, I'm good, man. I'm good. I mean, it's been a while since I've been on the airways for whatever reason, numerous reasons. But yeah, I'm good, bro. I'm feeling refreshed. Obviously, I came back from Turkey. It feels like an eternity ago, but I've been back a week and a bit now. So yeah, that was nice. Obviously, I know, we talk every day. So I started a new job about a month ago. So
yes,
fully, delving into that. So that's really exciting as well. Got some really good, exciting, projects coming up and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm all right, man. I'm good, man. I mean, what can I say? We're top of the league, baby. So, you know what I mean? Rocking the new away black kit, looking fly. Arsenal's playing fly football. So listen, happy days, man. I'm all well, man.
Yeah, but I'm glad to get you back on again. Let me go to the chat very quickly because my main man is in there, man. I think he is actually. James, get better soon, brother. You'll be back on soon, man. Listen, sometimes we just can't make it, bruv. With all the will in the world and the plans to get better soon, man. He's in the chat. Brenny's in the chat as well. Go on, Brenny.
Yeah, man. Brenny's there.
See you on, man. Brenny, I'll get you on one day, man. Don't worry, bruv. It happened. I always keep to my promises, man. Don't worry about that. But that was yesterday. Cheers, bruv. Palikova. But yeah, G, as you know, Weekly Surgery. You've been on this show plenty of times before. Primarily Arsenal, but and there are other things to talk about. And I thought, let me narrow it down. Obviously, there's some big games of football. Certain organizations decided to have 4 Premier League games at 2 p.m. Bro, let me not say anymore.
It was just ridiculous, bro. Like literally, it was just ridiculous in that, you've got that many, fixtures, big fixtures as well, key teams, big teams, obviously all vying for that kind of top 4, top 6. And you had all the fixtures at the same time at 2 p.m. to the point where you basically restricted what you could televise and what people could watch, And if you look at how maybe they just didn't preempt Arsenal's good form. So they thought that the Leeds and Arsenal game would mean very little. So that's probably what it is. I think a lot of the time the fixtures and stuff like that are all kind of pre-organized before the season or whatever. But yeah, maybe it was they just didn't envision Arsenal would be top of the table after 10 games. So they thought, yeah, we don't really need to give those man no airtime against Leeds. But boy, were they wrong. Top of the league, man. What are you saying?
Yeah, that is true. It's true. And just on arrival, good timing. Big brother's in the house. I'm gonna bring him in, man.
Wicked.
Kenny Ken.
Hey guys, sorry for my tardiness, but I was on a show with our good friend Lee Judges and Dan. Dan's brilliant. But Lee, me and Lee had a bit of a chat, and sometimes I think we just ran over time, but there was some big points. But nice to meet you, G Talks Arsenal. Nice to meet you. I just caught the last bit of your conversation regarding why Arsenal weren't on TV. I don't know, man. I think what's happened is that you're right. At the time, they didn't think we were going to be part of the title. But come on, Arsenal. Every time we play Leeds, we normally beat them about 4 or 5-1 anyway. So that's not going to be an attractive for British viewers. And in a day, you know, Man United Newcastle was probably a bigger game than Leeds Arsenal, and that wasn't even on TV. So, you know, it's Chelsea this, Chelsea that. I think if you look at Sky, they're obsessed with, you know, Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, and Man United, and Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's mad because, like, I had this conversation with Kenny and G with, like, Arsenal fans, like, across the board in terms of Neil's in, I think, California or LA. Obviously, Tanner's in, I can't remember what part of Tanner's in America, but yeah, they get such a different choice as to what we have in this country in terms of watching games. It's and a lot cheaper, by the way. And it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But let's get into it. Yeah. So, like I said, Kenny, welcome to Weekly Surgery, Kenny. I know you've been on my channel before, but this is a bit different.
That was basically therapy because, you know, obviously what we went through, it was not too far from Mother's Day, so we're basically like, you know, cancelling each other. I think that time when we came on in March, for, you know, for
of course, 100%.
But in terms of, you know, I've watched it from afar. Remember, you know, and you know, like I said, you're doing some good stuff. You know what I mean? You've got to keep it going. As I said before, if the old saying, you know, is very relevant. If people are not listening to you, go in their face, start shouting. They soon take notice of you, which means content, and it's got to be regular.
Yeah, love Kenny. Yeah, Kenny, listen, man takes your advice, you know, trust me. We have many chats away from YouTube life, man. We've had some good chats in the Emirates, man. I'll take note, man. Trust me, man.
Yeah, good man.
But yeah, Kenny, like the weekly surgeries, like we talk about Arsenal, like G's been on there before, like, but I do cover some other bits of the Premier League stuff. So just want to briefly touch on the Man City Liverpool game yesterday. To my surprise, I'm gonna come to Kenny first. Pep decides to go over tweak and goes with a back three. I think City have won once in 20, if I've got that right, at Anfield, which is not a great record. But yeah, what did you make of sort of Pep's adjustment and the sort of the game yesterday? What's your thoughts, my friend?
Well, the reason why he done that is because simple reason is that, again, because they want to play with a back three and because he wants to dominate possession, because he thinks that he wants to get a situation where he's now got a target man. So by playing with a back three and dominating possession, what teams have been doing to Liverpool, even at Anfield, is playing through them. So if he can get more ballers in the midfield, you know, plays more of his ballers like, you know, Silva, Godwin, obviously KDB, and get little passes. They now got a player can run onto the ball. So that's one of the reasons why he wanted to do it. But you look at City yesterday, you've got to think of Liverpool. You know, out of all the teams in the Premiership, with the exception of, there's only two teams that do not fear Man City and will go to Etihad and believe that they can beat them. And shockingly, it's Spurs, and the other team's Liverpool. And I think yesterday, Liverpool, you know, were waiting for City. They knew that City had a threat. And I think because Liverpool believed they're probably City's equals, then basically what's happened is their performance levels went up to the extent that they never stopped running. The front three actually pressed, including Salah, and then, you know, the midfield just worked its enough off the ball, and they just defended for their lives. But one thing you've got to like about Liverpool as well is that they exploited City's high line, and that's one of the things. Even with a back three, City always play a high line because they know that they're always going to be in possession, that they're going to have not 90% of the time they're going to control possession, and they're like woodpeckers when it comes to the attack. Even if they're a goal down in the last minute, they're not going to change the way they play. They're going to attack, create chances, come forward, put crosses in, and get bodies forward. So, in that respect, they're very confident in the way they play. It's risk and reward, but because they're the best team in the country, they can get away with it. But what Liverpool did is that a front three stretched them, and even Liverpool were prepared to play the long pass. Like their goal was virtually a long pass from Alisson. From his goal line. And then what's happened is that with the high line, you know, like Cancelo, if he gets turned by Salah, it's curtains. But there was other times where, you know, Jota was breaking the defensive line. Salah was breaking the defensive line. And at times, like if Salah and Salah and Nunez passed, Liverpool could have won that 3 or 4-0 because they had really, really good openings to the extent where City didn't have the openings because Liverpool kind of basically ran City out of the game. So in that respect, you know, a lot of teams, you know, haven't got the bravery to play that
If we lost, you might have lost Kenny Ken. I'm going to bring G in. Days there. Before we lost you there, Bennett Ken. You still there?
Yeah, you got me back.
Yeah. You got you back. Got you back. Go on, bro.
Yeah, I'm still there. Yeah. It's only 10 seconds because my internet's all right. But if Liverpool played how they played against us, the 4-2-4, City would have murdered them because last week they played 4-2-4.
Yeah,
and it was a risk reward where they knew they were going to be the dominant team in possession. But when you play Man City and you're not the dominant team in possession, 4-3-3, mate. Don't mess around. No, just gets people who are going to run, tackle, pass the ball to someone better, and then get quick passes in so you can pierce the, like I said, what I call the high line. That's the best way to beat Man City. But your passing has to be accurate, and you've got to take your chances.
No, well said, Kenny. G, before I come to you, so obviously Liverpool had no Diaz. Trent was on the bench. Milner played at right back. Kanate, there was an injury. You know what? And obviously we had the contention with the City goal, and they ruled it out. They were saying that obviously the foul on Fabinho, and if it wasn't for that, I think they might have not given the goal for the. I didn't think it was a foul on Alisson because I don't think he properly had it in his hands personally. But yeah, what did you make of that game yesterday? In particular, I thought Liverpool were really good, especially in the second half in possession of the ball. They're a very good team out of possession. But what did you make of the game, bro?
You know what it is with the Liverpool and Man City game is that I was really looking forward to it. There are certain games, even being an Arsenal fan, that from a neutral perspective, you're going to enjoy this game. Given the kind of given the way City play, given the way Liverpool have played and the results they've been getting, I kind of had it down as a high scoring win for City. I thought there were going to be a lot more goals than there was, but I think the reason why the game went the way it did, as Kenny said, I think was credit to Liverpool. They came out and played differently to the way they've played in other games, and I think. The only concern I have, and it's not really a concern because I don't care too much for Liverpool, but the issue with Liverpool is they're not going to be playing City every week. Yes. And those players came out and they did, as Kenny said, they pressed more than they pressed in previous games. They ran themselves into the ground, and they literally for them it was kind of not necessarily make or break for their season, but given where they are in the table and how many points they are behind, the teams at the top, it was a kind of must win for Liverpool in that game. So it didn't surprise me how they approached the game. It didn't surprise me the way they played because they've not become a bad side overnight. And if you actually watch them in their games, they haven't looked the team that's been part of the two teams that have dominated English football over the last 4 or 5 years. But I mean, really and truly, it's not a massive I wouldn't necessarily say it's a fair reflection of where they are in the league table. A couple of tweaks here and there, they're still a very good team, and I think what they proved in obviously yesterday's game was just how good and how dangerous they can be, even against Rangers in midweek. 7-1 in the Champions League. So. I mean, the game itself, I think it was top draw. I think the quality of both sides, it was a really entertaining game. I really enjoyed it. But I think what it also does, it also gives me confidence that, this City team can be got at. Now, the reason why I say that is because I personally don't feel that City are as strong as they were last season. I had this conversation with a lot of other fans, and they're saying, you're crazy. They got Haaland, he's scoring 20 goals. But I think as a squad, in terms of the depth of their squad, I'm not saying they're weak because they're not. They're the strongest squad in the league. But losing the likes of Zinchenko and Jesus and those types of players, when it comes to certain periods in the season, I don't necessarily see them having that quality to bring in. Yeah. So I honestly feel like with this City side, as with the Liverpool side, I think both those teams on their day, they can absolutely obliterate any team in the Premier League. But I honestly do believe that both those teams can be got at if you obviously set up right, if you approach the game right, and if you set up tactically right, as what Kenny was saying with the different formations. That is so key to playing those teams. So yeah, it was a good game. I think. The result in the end was the result we wanted as Gooners. Obviously, given the fact that, City dropped points, even though it's early stages. But yeah, it was, I mean, in terms of the goal, you know what? I was born in the 80s. And I know for some people, you know, they might consider that young, they might consider that old, where, you know, whenever it
young,
is
bro.
that
It's young, mate. It's young.
But for me, I'm a big fan of, like, you know, the game being physical. You know, when I was growing up and I was watching Arsenal, and the players that I watch, you know, the Campbells, the Torres, the Vieiras, the Gilbertos, you know, for me, I love the Premier League, and the Premier League always, for me, trumped all other leagues because it had that physical aspect to it. And I love the physicality of the Premier League and the physicality of football. It's sport, it's competitive. So for me, it wasn't even a foul on Fabinho. I thought it was soft. By the letter of the law, he grabbed his shirt, he pulled him to the ground. But at the same time, for me, it was soft. And I agree with you. I think even if they hadn't stopped it for the foul in the build-up, I think they would have disallowed it. Even if it wasn't for the Haaland foul on Fabinho, I think they would have judged it that, you know, Alisson had two hands on the ball. But again,
he did.
I don't think he was completely in control of the ball. So I do think that Guardiola was within his rights to be annoyed. As you could see, he was really ticked off. But it was one of those 50-50s. Whichever way it went, there was going to be somebody that weren't going to be happy.
Yeah, no, good. No, glad to get you guys' thoughts. Listen, it's like you say, as we're Arsenal fans, but when there's a big game of football in town, man, you're gonna listen. You're gonna watch it. You will watch it because it's enthralling, it's captivating. It's always a high pressure game with those two. So, no, great to get you guys' thoughts. Let's move on to the mighty Arsenal. So, Kenny, you know what? Actually, I spoke to G and I said to a few people when they looked at our run of games, like in small blocks, and I said we get a draw yesterday. And people were like, right now, Arsenal going to steamroller in 3-1 and 2-1. I said, no. Listen,
you know what? You know why I would have disagreed with you, because I assumed that, you know, that we would have been good enough, savvy enough to hit Leeds on the break, because I kind of look at Leeds, and I think with Leeds, the way they played, and they still, you know, it's a bit refined, but it's no different how they play against Bielsa, because the guys only just got there. So they're going to start playing the way they used to be playing. I always thought that Leeds would be pretty strong away from home with that kind of style, because of the fact that, because of their high press and high energy, high running, you know, they're going to be very effective on a counter attack. But when you play them at Ellen Road, if you look at their results over the last few years, especially when they first came to the Premiership, I know no one wants to talk about the lockdown season, but it's quite pertinent that when Leeds played the high pressing game, they won the front foot and they pressed teams. There were times where you could beat Leeds at Ellen Road, but they could reverse the result, you know, away from home. And I think I expected us, with the way we've been playing, with the pace of Saka, the pace of Martinelli, and the quick passing, you know, Partey controlling the midfield, the quick, you know, getting bodies forward as well. I always thought that if Leeds came at us and we hit them on a counter attack, we would have won about 3 or 4-1. But what I wasn't, you know, like prepared for was the fact that Leeds sucked us in the first half, where they kind of put men behind the ball. They kind of, like I said, they went on the counter attack and they let us have the possession. It was only in the second half when they realised that, you know, like, we weren't at it, even though, because we looked good, we scored a goal, boom, boom. But when they changed the tactics and thought, right, Arsenal winning 1-0, we've got to go for it because we've got this big 40,000 crowd, and then they played the Leeds way. That's when we just couldn't cope with it. We just really couldn't cope with it, because what I was seeing is that, you know, I don't know whether it's the effects of what happened in Norway, or the effects that we you know, because of us, because, you know, in games of winning, we've been a bit sloppy, but we've always been able to get away with it because we've always been able to outscore the opposition. But our sloppiness from previous games came to roost, and we were just, you know, without VAR, you know, we would have lost that game, because let's face it, a lot of football fans watching at home, watching the stadium, when we were given a reason why the game was delayed by 40 minutes, it's VAR. I think our subconscious was saying, you know, what do you mean VAR? Play the game.
Play the game, yeah.
Good thing, yeah? It's a good thing that we waited for the technology, because without the technology, and it was just a referee lineup, and the you know, this, you know, like I said, the assistant referee's decision, we'd have had 2 penalties against us. No, it's actually we all had 1 penalty, because it wasn't the penalty that wasn't the penalty that the handball to VAR.
Yeah, that was the one they got. That's the one they got. That's the one they got.
For
yeah.
VR. All right.
Yeah.
So basically, what will happen? What would happen, right? We could have had a situation, right? We wouldn't have had one penalty, but we definitely would have had the other penalty. Plus, we've had a sending off. Plus, we've had a goal. So, in that respect, fans who hate VAR, as I always say about VAR, it evens itself out. But in terms of like Leeds yesterday, I was shocked. But you know what? People can praise Leeds to the rooftops and say, "Didn't you guys play well?" Points is what it's all about.
That's
the thing. You now, they played really well against against Crystal Palace last week, and got nothing for it. So at the end of the day, you look at Aston Villa played out of skins against from when I saw the highlights, they played out of skins against Chelsea. But in 2 games' time, if they play out their skins and lose, Steven Gerrard is going back to his mansion in Formby. It's facts, you know what I mean? He is. Because, it's facts.
Yeah. Kenny, you make a good point, about because even I'll go back to even last season, we were excellent against Man City, the Emirates, but the cold, hard facts is we lost.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
The reason why I said a draw, I looked, to be honest, I looked at a run of games. I didn't have any defeats for Arsenal, but I thought, I don't think we're going to, hypothetically speaking, go through the next 4 or 5 on the bounce winning them. I'd love for us to do it, but I thought the first half, before I come to you, G, Kenny, to come back to you, like, I thought we did well in the first half. I thought Erdegaard was very, very instrumental. Saka and Martinelli were very dangerous from the wide areas. And the people can say what they want about the goalkeeper, but I thought it was a brilliant goal, personally.
No keeper saving that. No keeper saving that. If you, when you buy the ticket, they always say, when in doubt, whack it. And when you whack it, you're not saving it. I don't care whether you've gone down or you stand still. If you stand still, you won't save it. Doesn't matter. Do you remember that shot from Robbie Fowler in the 95-96 season at Old Trafford? Peter Schmeichel had no chance. Difficult angle, bang! The camera got smashed into pieces. That's the kind of shot where you're not saving it. So in that respect, there were no 2 keepers wouldn't have saved it. Even if they had a wall, it's going through the wall because it's hit with great power. But, in terms of like what you said about Odegaard, we did do well. But, we're probably going to come to this. There has to be some sort of concern because the last few games he's been substituted. And I think what's happened is that sometimes, if you are on top like we were, that 1 goal cushion just wasn't enough, mate. Because
it wasn't.
Leeds didn't just have VAR going their way. Also, they had some clear-cut chances as well.
Oh, there's some great chances.
You know what I mean? Really, really big chance. Even towards the end with Somerville,
Oh, great chance.
Great chance. And and that's through pressure and us not being able to cope. So I say it. We dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, 100%. No, Kenny, thanks for that. G, coming to you. I kind of get picking the same team as the winning team from before the week, beating Liverpool, for example, in the Premier League, based on that. With Tommy Ashley starting left back, did you think Tierney might come in, or was you not too worried about the team lineup being the same as the week before?
You know what it is with me? I think the team lineup pretty much picks itself at the moment. I think the way we've started the season, particularly obviously in the league and as well as the Europa, I think you can pretty much predict the lineup. I think, the only difference for me in terms of that lineup is, if Zinchenko's fit, he probably comes, if he's fully fit, he probably comes straight back into the side. But yeah, I wasn't worried about the fullback situation. And to be honest, I've not really been worried about the fullback situation for the majority of this season. I think when the season started, obviously we had the issues with Tommy's fitness. And I think most of us expected Cedric to start most of the games. Ben White came in, and I think that's been an absolute masterstroke by Arteta. I think Ben White's been phenomenal at right back. I don't think any of us expected Saliba to come in and have the impact he's had. So we kind of assumed that Tommy would be on the right, but if he wasn't fit, it'd be Cedric. And then we thought it would be Ben White and Gabriel at the centre-back. But, Arteta switched it up. He's brought Ben White in at right back. He's done a brilliant job. I mean, Saliba wasn't at his best yesterday, that's for sure. But, in terms of the impact he's had so far, in the season, it's been beyond what I imagined it would be, regardless of the fact that he's a very talented young player. He's an absolute baby when it comes to, centre-backs. in terms of his age. So he's had a real impact. I mean, Gabriel's had his criticism.
We'll come on to that.
We'll
come on to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop there. And then obviously at the left back situation for me, I mean, when you look at Zinchenko and KT, I think they just offer different things. So I think Zinchenko, us in terms of an offensive unit, he offers us a lot more. I think KT is definitely, more of a stable defensive, kind of wing back, left back, whatever you want to call it. So I think they kind of offer different things. I think seeing Zinchenko over however many games, he has made KT look one-dimensional in terms of the way he plays, because where Zinchenko can play at number 8 and he is so, technically gifted, he has kind of made KT look a bit like basic going forward. But they're two different players and they offer different things. So for me, I wasn't worried about Tommy coming in at left back, because he came in at left back against Liverpool and he absolutely, I'm not saying, Salah didn't do anything in the game or they didn't do anything down the right, but I mean, he had a really good game. And he did, some will say he did pocket Salah. Salah was even taken off. So I wasn't too bothered. I think the midfield picks itself. I think the front three picks itself. And I think pretty much the goalkeeper and obviously the back four picks itself. So, I mean, if it was a case of when Tommy came in for the Liverpool game, I did raise an eyebrow. I was a bit like, how's this going to go? But given his performance against Salah in Liverpool, seeing him in the team, I wasn't surprised and I was pretty comfortable with it, to be honest.
Now, big up to you. People who just joined us, big up to people in the chat. People, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook Live or Twitter Live, smash the like button straight away, people. Don't even bother waiting. Kenny, come back to you. So the second half starts, mate. Didn't start well. They had an immediate chance, I believe. They brought on Bamford for Rodrigo, I think they did, and he called us a bit of problems with the two centre halves and the two wide boys. Aronson didn't start running the whole game, and what's the other guy's name? Sinistero, is it? I think it is for Leeds. They gave us problem after problem. So what for you happened in the second half? We give Leeds credit, but what do you think Arsenal? What did you not see from them in the second half? Is he going?
Oh, is it me?
Yeah, go, Kenny.
No, because basically, what's the situation? What happened is that we didn't adapt to the fact that Leeds changed tactics. It's not as if we didn't know that they were going to go for it. We, all the basics we did badly. Everyone talks about the defense and how bad they were, but I'm always a great believer that if people in front of you are not working hard enough, then the defense are going to be exposed. You have to look at what's happened with Van Dijk. Reason why Van Dijk is defending and having to like defend on his wrong side, because not in front of him he hasn't had the hard work rate from Mane and the people behind Mane. And it's the same today. Jesus didn't hold the ball up. When Eddie Nketiah came on, didn't hold the ball up. Thomas Partey was doing the jobs for 3 people. Because you're doing the jobs for 3 people, you're going to make mistakes. Odegaard, who's normally the first press, was nowhere to be seen. Xhaka, people give Xhaka say he had a good game. Well, not really, because you're part of that that team that wasn't working hard on the ball. Because if everyone's working hard on the ball, Leeds don't get those opportunities. So it's one of the things where people that it could be fatigue, but when you play for Arsenal Football Club, you've got to accept the fact that you're not going to play just the 38 games. If you want to be successful, you've got to play more than those games. So we knew we were in the Europa League from the last kick of last season, so we have to be prepared for that. Maybe the manager maybe could take some bit of responsibility, because I've said it once, say it 1,000 times. The quality of football you're going to see in the group stage of the Europa League hasn't changed since we first participated in it in 2017. It's of really bad quality. It's bad. It's awful. And I think that the players, if you've got players like Marquinhos chomping a bit, you've got Eddie Nketiah, who is a cup player, then you've got players like Cedric can do a game, he doesn't get a game, and then you're playing Kieran Tierney there now. That team is good enough and it's more experienced enough to get through that group. And you could put Rob Holding there. And even if you put the goalie in that situation, he's going to need a bit of experience as well. So if you protect that goalie, you don't have to play Jesus, Odegaard, Saka. Why? Why do you have to play them? You're not in the last 16. The best teams in Europe are not dropping down for the alleged best team in Europe, but not dropping down from the the Premier League, Champions League. So why are you risking players? You know, there could be Arsenal fans out there who say, "Well, I don't want to win the Europa League. I only want to, they want to be out of the position because out of the competition. They don't want to play on Thursdays. They don't want to play to go watch Arsenal on a Sunday." So all I'm saying is that, if Arsenal are going to go for this league title, then you've got to keep your sweat fresh. Yes, PSV are a good side, and yes, they're going to pose us some problems in the next two games. But trust your players. Trust your players. How are you going to know? Because everyone's talking about the January window and the fact that we've got a thin squad. How say the club doesn't buy, which they should do. You're going to need these youngsters, the second string, to bridge the gap in quality. Not going to be able to do that if they don't play games. And that's the thing about the setting off. You risk, if the players are jaded, well, they shouldn't be, but if they are jaded, then the manager's got to think, well, hang on here. This is Leeds United. Leeds United are a high energy, high running, aggressive team, and that's away from home, let alone on their own ground. You know what I mean? So I think team selections are, and I think G talks Arsenal. One of the things as well you mentioned Tomiyasu. Sometimes when you play him at left back, one of the things about horses of courses is that the reason why you have a horse for a course is because you do it rarely, but to make it a regular thing, it doesn't work. And man management, obviously we're all going to have our own opinions, but what does it say to Kieran Tierney where he thinks he's the best left back at the club? We probably collectively think he's the best left back at the club, and then he can't get a game. Zinchenko's injured, can't get a game. But I think what it is with football fans are like it's like school, really, isn't it? The best looking girl who held that title for all of the secondary school years up until the sixth form, holds the title. Then all of a sudden, a new girl comes in sixth form,
blows out the water.
All of a sudden, you look at the best looking girl and you realise that she's got a bit of freckles and then a bit of acne growing. This girl's got perfect skin, but the girl that you've always fancied always had freckles and acne. But she was up there because the competition crew was bad. Now you've got competition. I think what we're looking at as Arsenal fans, we look at Zinchenko, we go, bloody hell, we just come from Man City, he's a Ukrainian international. Oh yeah. By the way, didn't we really look good at Crystal Palace? The way he came in the midfield and we looked more potent. Who needs Tierney? And I think that's the manager. I think the manager thinks like that, but I think the fan base is turning away from Kieran because we got something new, and it's like secondary school, isn't it?
Kenny, great point. Great analogies, Kenny. Gee, coming back to you. I think part of the reason I still listen. I am absolutely delighted we got a clean sheet. Our goodness knows how we got one. But partly the reason why we got one was because of this guy. Ramsdale, I don't know if I'm going purely by what I see on the socials with him, right? There's always this feel, this unease, and he needs to calm down and the concentration. And listen, he came to the forefront yesterday. You don't have to make worldy saves to be, man of the match. But when he was called upon, he did his job. And he kept a clean sheet. So how good was he? And also, that was a hard watch, that second half. That was a hard watch. Even the subs we brought on didn't, to me, he brought someone to solidify it and make it a bit more difficult for Leeds to penetrate us. But generally, I don't think any of the subs really worked because the same pattern of play was happening with Leeds, getting in behind and putting pressure and creating opportunities. But yeah, Ramsdale, and what did you make of that second half, mate?
You know what it is like with our players, it's just mad with like the Arsenal players because I think like Ramsdale was one of those players. Look, when it comes to football and Arsenal and players and stuff like that, I've always got an opinion. I just choose to not always use the socials and tweeting to vocalize that. So I will have a 101 conversations with you about Arsenal and players, but maybe 5% of that will be put out on the platform, because I don't feel the need to have to like project all my views onto the rest of Twitter or YouTube or whatever it is. But I think with Ramsdale, I wasn't blown away by the transfer. But again, I didn't go out there and just, you know, rubbish the guy. I just thought, okay, well, let him come to Arsenal. Let's see what he's done. And I think over the course of his career so far, I think I've not known many players to get to turn around the fan base as quick as he did. And I think a lot of that was to do with his performances, but two, just his aura, just the way he, you know, interacts with the fans, the way he carries himself, you know, the interviews he did, he come across as a really, you know, humble, kind of, you know, level-headed young man. And I just think with Arsenal fans, it's like we're so critical in terms of our players. And I'm like, sometimes I think like with the criticism, I think it's just coming from people that have just never, ever kicked ball. It's like when you play football at whatever level, you're going to have games, you're going to have periods in a season where your form is not going to be as good as you probably could perform. And also you're going to make mistakes. Like it's going to happen, particularly when you're at this elite level, which the Premier League is, and particularly when you've got really inexperienced players. Like, you know, Ramsdale, regardless of how good he is in terms of, you know, his goalkeeping ability, his distribution, whatever, the ball at his feet, he's still very much a very young goalkeeper in terms of, you know, age-wise and experience. So I just think that with the Arsenal fans, it's like there's almost like no in between. It's like we either love a player or we hate a player. And it's like there needs to be that kind of middle ground. So with me, there have been times at the there were times last season when I thought he performed out of his skin. He was absolutely amazing. And there were other times when I thought to myself, ooh, you know, didn't look so good there, or maybe he could have done better in that situation. But you've got to look at the player and his performances across the season, his consistency, and just look at the bigger picture. So for me, I'm not worried about Ramsdale. I think Ramsdale's a quality goalkeeper. I think, you know, for me, in just my humble opinion, you know, I think he generally is a kind of, you know, 7 out of 10 player, week in, week out. I think he's still learning. I think he's performed very well since he come to Arsenal. Some exceptional saves. He was key against Leeds. Like when your goalkeeper is man of the match, that tells you exactly what type of performance the team overall had. Because, you know, if you're scoring goals and you're playing liquid football, your goalkeeper don't get man of the match. He doesn't even get a mention. So the fact that he was man of the match tells you exactly what that game was like for the vast majority of the 90 minutes. But yeah, Ramsdale for me, I think, you know, like all players, and particularly young players, they will make mistakes. They won't always be in form, but I'm not particularly worried about him or concerned about his form. And I wasn't even when his form dipped. I think he's an exceptionally young, gifted footballer, and I think he's going to get better and better and better as time goes on. So I think the criticism of him in most recent weeks, months, or whatever it is, I think has just been a bit tight unfair. In terms of the substitutions or just generally how we played, I just thought we were awful.
Tough watch, yeah.
We were just awful. I think it wasn't a particularly good performance in midweek in the Europa League. That's for sure. That was a tough watch. And I think I was hoping that there was going to be a lift in performance against Leeds, but it was pretty much the same, if not worse. Well, it probably was worse against Leeds because we were probably playing a better opposition. So, yeah, the performance wasn't great. I think Arteta knew it. I think he sensed it, which is why he wanted to make changes. He brought on the changes. It didn't really make any impact. We were just not at the races. We were just not up for it. I mean, we rolled our luck during the game. We got lucky. At the same time, like Kenny said, we got the 3 points. And, you know, people can say this, people can say that, you know, you can say what you want. At the end of the day, we absolutely, I've been an Arsenal fan for the vast majority of my life, and I've seen Arsenal over the years play teams off the park and leave with nothing.
Yeah, 100%.
Timeless occasions. But I have no issue with us playing badly, you know, every now and then and coming away with the 3 points. I have no issue with it. When it becomes a consistent thing, when we're performing below par, eventually that will catch up with us. If we continue to play the way we did like in midweek and against Leeds, eventually we will start to drop points. So for me, when you look on reflection of all the games we've played, You take away Leeds, you take away because I think the game in midweek was, I think it was a pretty even contest. But if you look at all the games prior to that, for me, we were the most dominant side in all those games. Even against Manchester United, we deserved to win, but we lost the game. So there's no way I'm not going to celebrate, and I'm not going to be happy with leaving Ellen Road with 3 points. Absolutely absurd concept. Yeah. So I was absolutely thrilled. The 3 points, we got it. Like I say, we move forward to obviously PSV and Southampton, and I hope there is a lift in terms of the performance, because I don't want to watch that week in, week out, please, Arsenal. But yeah, 3 points, all good, man, all good.
Yeah, listen, there's going to be, you're right. You make a good point. Before I come to Kenny Ken, we're going to change tact a little bit. If I know, we all know, people in the chat, Arsenal fans, we know, if that was certain teams in the Premier League that had got that result yesterday at Ellen Road, the narrative would be very, very different. 100% different. But because we had an off day, which has not been the case for many games this season, because we started games on the front foot. We started games very, very well. We've gone ahead in games.
Yeah,
we went ahead yesterday. I thought the first half, I thought we was decent. I thought it was okay, but the second half was a complete contrast. But listen, if you can win games when you're not playing well, it's not a bad thing. But go on, keep going, mate.
Can I just say though, there on that narrative thing, because it is something that it does bug me, but I just choose to not bite on the socials. Do you know what I mean? Because you think about it, like beginning of the season, the narrative was, we've had we're over celebrating narrative.
Yeah.
After the over celebrating narrative, we haven't played no decent teams narrative, and both those narratives have been dispelled, because guess what? Other teams and other players do celebrate victories as well.
Yeah.
So that narrative was blown out of the water. Then the whole narrative of not playing a decent side, we go and slap Liverpool and slap Spurs back to back. So they couldn't come up with that. Now, what I've seen with the media outlets is that lucky Arsenal, they didn't deserve to win.
Yeah.
They deserved the 3 points. And I'm like, hold up. I'm like, Spurs have been playing like this all season, Bridget.
Yeah.
They have been playing awful all season and getting wins. They've literally played probably some of the worst football from what I have seen in the Premier League, but yet this is their best start of a Premier League season ever.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden, it's like when it's Arsenal, it's like there's this narrative, and I'm not saying there's a conspiracy, I'm not saying there's an agenda, but because obviously I see it through an Arsenal lens, so I'm only looking at stuff that is relating to Arsenal. But it does annoy me how it's like the narrative is always changing and the goalposts are always changing with regards to like certain big accounts and certain media outlets, and it's just annoying, man. At the end of the day, listen, the table, as we say, the table don't lie. After 10 games, we have the best team, and that's fact. There's nothing more you can say. I saw a journalist tweet. Last thing I'll say, I know I'm rambling on. I saw a journalist tweet, and he actually said during the game yesterday that apologies to the table and apologies to the rest of the teams in the Premier League, but these are the two best teams in the country. And I just thought, like, what do you mean apologies to the table and apologies to the rest of the teams in the league?
Yeah, it's mad.
Like, factually, right now, they're not the two best teams in the country, because they're not the two teams that are top of the league. So yeah, the whole narratives is really annoying, man. It is.
Yeah, no, I hear you. We've lost Kenny Ken for a moment. Hopefully we'll get him back, because we're going to wrap up soon. I was going to speak about one particular player. But before we do that, if you don't know what to do by now, this is what you should do. And there you have it, people. Audio listeners, when you do listen to that back, nice little intro to subscribe to Albert J TV. People on all the social media platforms, smash the like button on all of them, people, and follow my esteemed guests on their Twitter handles in the boxes on the screen and going below the bottom in the banner. But yeah, gonna sort of move on to one particular player who's been spoken about a lot, a hell of a lot. If I can find him, where's he gone? Brazilian starlight, Gabriel Mangala. So numbers yesterday. 100% aerial duels won, 90% pass accuracy, 80 touches, 9 duels contested, 8 duels won, 4 clearances, 4 blocks, 3 tackles, 3 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And I still saw rumblings on the platform about this guy's performance. Gee, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna bring in Kenny Ken, and I'm gonna bring you in because I want to get both your thoughts on this guy. Kenny Ken, you're back with us, mate. I think you are back. Let me see. Get you back. Ken, you back? Is he there? Oh, got to add him in, innit? That help, innit? There he is. Kenny, back. Yeah. Kenny, you back?
I've been listening in the background anyway, but yeah, back.
Yeah,
but,
so Kenny, yeah, it's a loaded question.
Is it about Gabriel?
Yeah. It's not just about his performance yesterday. What have you made of his time since you've seen him in Arsenal? And what have you made of him this season?
Well, I think when he first came, he was a breath of fresh air. And I think, you know, if you speak to a lot of Arsenal fans, the dream partnership was him and Saliba. But we were kind of robbed of, we were actually robbed of that because of Mikel Arteta's, I would say, suspicion of his quality. And I think what a lot of Arsenal fans now are trying to sell us, and I think it's one of the false narratives ever, that, this was always the plan. Let him go on loan for 2 or 3 years and we'll finally bring him aside. I think that's got to be like, you know, the stuff of Dungeons and Dragons from Walt Disney. It's absolute rubbish. The fact is that, you know, Saliba says that he was contacted by the club. Well, nah, you go away on loan, your parent club who owns you is going to contact you on a regular basis because it's a duty of care because you're still their employee and they're going to check in your progress. Yeah, and they're going to say, "You're right," and they treat you well. Is it okay? You know what I mean? It's kind of, if you go away to camp and your parents send you away to camp and say, "You're right. Do you need some money? Do you want me to wire you something?" That's exactly what we were doing. No one can deny that. Had it not been for his excellent pre-season where he kicked the door down and changed our whole way of playing, the preferred partnership was going to be Benjamin White and Gabriel, because the fact is that Benjamin White was not signed for 50 million to play it right back. We just fit him on the side because of the great form. So if you look at Gabriel, first season, very pleased. Last season, it was good. But I think this season there's been a bit of sloppiness coming to his play where he's getting into that kind of trap where your pace is going to get you out of trouble. And I think the thing with him is that we saw a mistake against Fulham. We've seen mistake against Liverpool, but I think Saliba was at fault for mistake for one of the goals as well against Liverpool. Yeah. And then we see the Tottenham one where Xhaka was part of the problem, but initially first phase of play he makes a mistake. Xhaka makes a mistake again, and then the last phase of play he panics. He commits a foul. So this season, I would say, I would say that, he has struggled this season and he hasn't produced the same sort of numbers as he was before. But potentially he's a great player. But when you do get in a situation where you think your pace is going to get you out of trouble, you don't concentrate, that's a disaster. Look what happened to Des Walker. Yeah, he went down that road. And you remember Sol Campbell as well. Towards the end of his time at Arsenal. Yeah. I mean, the first spell, again, letting the ball bounce, making a few mistakes. You've got to really evolve as a defender. Because the end of the day, pace don't last forever. And the end of the day, defending. I think what is with Gabriel as well is I think defenders are supposed to going to have bits of off days in form because of the way we play now. Back in the day, if you wanted to be a centre half, right, the first thing you do, you head the ball, you kick it into row Z, and you mark your man, and your man mark your man. Now you've got to start attacks.
Yeah.
Different. You've got to start, and it's not just you starting attacks. Your goalkeeper's got to start attacks. I mean, so if you're not good on the ball, you can't defend. So he's got to, he's got to marry it up, being a defender and being a good on the ball. And I think sometimes in teams managed by Arteta, that is going to happen. If you look at what's happened in Man City as well, there's Man City players as well. Stones. Excellent on the ball, but there have been times when he's played for defensively. He's made so. I think that's what it is. Until we're going to see a lot of players making lots of mistakes, defensively, and where because they think there's space to get out of trouble, and they're caught between two stools. My manager wants me to be the one who starts an attack, and I think that's what it is with Gabriel. But there's no doubt the form's been poor, and it has to be called out because one of the things is that as we've been saying before, you can't twice lucky, 3 times disaster. You know what I mean? So we've had 2 bad performances. They play like against Southampton or PSV. The 3rd time's a disaster, and he's part of that. Complacency that we're going through.
Yeah. Kenny, well said. G, coming to you. I think what I would say about Gabriel is sort of watching him play this season. He does get himself in some really bad positions, man. And the reason why he does that most of the time is because he thinks he can win the ball in areas where, even if you did win it, it's not really going to be advantageous to Arsenal. But what I will say, and Kenny and G, you'll listen. I've seen some defenders at this football club. I've seen the likes of Squillaci, Pascal Sigon, Senderos play at this football club. Arsenal fans, believe me, with Gabriel, we're doing all right. Listen, let's have it right. He cops a lot of. There's a big scrutiny on the likes of, particularly him. I'd say more so this season than any other Arsenal player. But G, what's your sort of overriding thoughts on his time at Arsenal and what you've seen this season?
You know what? It's a tough one. I think I've got to echo a couple of the things that Kenny said. I think when Gabriel came to the team, I have to completely agree. He was an absolute breath of fresh air because we haven't really had commanding centre backs or physical centre backs, quick centre backs, pacey centre backs since the likes of Campbell and Toure. So it was nice, that the club actually invested, a decent amount of money and got, a player with pace, a player with power, a player who's good in the air, and just had the key attributes to being a quality centre back in the Premier League. Too many of the centre backs we bought just didn't have the physical presence, just didn't have the presence just for the league, the physicality of the league. Just seeing the likes of Drogba bully our defenders for season upon season upon season. So he was an absolute breath of fresh air, and I think. Again, I got to go back to the age thing. In that he is for me, he is still very young. I think is this his 3rd season now? Or is this his second?
Yeah,
this is the start of his 3rd season in the Premier League. So I do think, like Kenny said, like you've said, I think there have been periods where his form hasn't been great, and even when he's playing well, he seems to be susceptible to a mistake. Or susceptible to, doing something wrong, or like you said, Albert, finding himself in the wrong position, or relying on, making an error, but then relying on his pace and strength to kind of, recover the situation. But I'm just hoping, the more he plays, because he's a vocal point of that defense now. I'm hoping the more he plays, the longer he's at the club, he can kind of just become older, more mature, more experience, and just kind of iron those mistakes out of his game. It's a hope. It's not me knowing or anything that is going to happen. We just have to kind of hope that happens. But I will say one thing, and I had this conversation with one of my mates, and I'm talking about football IQ. And I'm not sure how high his footballing IQ is in terms of just like his kind of positioning and his decision making. When I look at Saliba and I look at Gabriel, it's crazy because even though I know Saliba was poor yesterday, in a couple of instances, there is a calmness, and there is kind of just an intelligence about his play in terms of when he's defending. It's weird because I feel more secure at times with Saliba than I do Gabriel. And footballing IQ is something you can improve, but sometimes it's like if you don't have it in certain scenarios, in certain situations, he tends to kind of panic and make rash decisions, and they're often not the best decisions. And sometimes you can iron out of a player, and sometimes you just can't. That will literally be a feature of their game for as long as they stay pro and they're playing. So that is a bit of a concern with me in terms of Gabriel. I think the other thing I will say is I would like us to go out and get an additional left centre back, somebody who we can bring into the squad to provide not cover, competition. I think, you know, if the right back situation was in an ideal situation that was solved, Ben White and Saliba would be a fantastic options in terms of right centre back position, because they're both phenomenally gifted centre backs. Yes, they're young, so they can improve, but I think there's a bit of a gap in that defence at left centre back. And I think going in, I don't think they will target it in January. I think it will be something that they potentially target in the summer. I want to see a left centre back, natural left centre back, to come into the squad and compete with Gabriel. And because if you look at the number of games, and I'm not making no excuse, but if you look at the number of games, I think the game midweek against Bodo, or whatever they're called, was the first game that Gabriel never started this season.
Yeah.
So that shows you just how kind of dependent we are on him. We need to have a player that Arteta trusts, that can come into this squad and just be a like for like. And I don't feel like we have that at present in terms of kind of Gabriel. So I do think some of the criticism of Gabriel's performances and his form is fair. I think some of it is completely over the top. But yeah, it is one of those things where I think he will improve. I hope he will improve. And I just think we could definitely help the situation by adding, you know, more competition in that squad, because we know when you bring in an additional quality player, you know, it will push, you know, the player you have in the squad. And if it doesn't, it kind of makes or breaks the player you have in your squad. So Gabriel will either up his game and put himself, you know, forward and in contention for being selected, or his career will simply fizzle out. But yeah, I definitely think an inclusion of a new left centre back going into next summer would be key.
Great shouts. But people in the chat, thank you once again for your interaction. With Gabriel, listen, he was leading goal scoring centre back last season in the Premier League, so he does have an asset and give us something from an attacking point of view. And he does, and actually, you know what? In some of the games, he does start. If you look at some of our goals we scored this season, it has started from him actually playing out from the back. So there is some positives with him. But guys, we've got 2 games. We've got Eindhoven on Thursday, and we have Southampton away next. Southampton's an odd side, man. Really. I'm surprised Hasenhüttl was still there. If I'm being the way he was talking the last 18 months, he's going to retire from football. But yeah, just to finish up, sort of, what's your thoughts about the games coming up on Thursday and we play Southampton? Back-to-back wins. You confident, guys, coming to Kenny Ken?
The atmosphere is going to be good on Thursday because you know, PSV are going to bring a lot of fans. You know,
yeah,
we should lay them, give them free drinks for the way we mess them around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you know, seriously, we, you know, those, you know, a lot of people came out, had booked flights, and you know, it was one of the games where they played at Chelsea and they didn't play that game. But you know, Arteta is going to get greedy, and he's not going to resist. He's not going to rest players. He's going to mix it up a bit. So he's going to want to. It's going to be a competitive game, which can go either way. But I think playing at home, getting bodies forward, will win that game 3-1. And Southampton again. This is a team that is going to fight for their lives, and there is goals in that team, unlike Leeds. So, you know, one of the things is that I can say categorically they may not be able to do this for 90 minutes. So, hang in there, wear your belts, get your bodies forward. But if you've got nothing left, then you're not going to win that game, and you know you're going to have to rely on an early goal, and then it's just backs to the wall again because you know they will start off well, but you know what? They had a good first. From what I heard, they got a good first half against West Ham. Second half, they faded. So who knows what's going to happen there? But again, I expect us to win by the odd goal. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be a fight. But you know, Ronnie Steve's up 2-1 Arsenal.
Go on, Kenny Ken. That's it, bro. Go on. Gee, before I come to you, let me come and jump. So yeah. I think we'll win 2-1 on Thursday against PSV. It'll be interesting to see how they play, actually, because, you know, Cody Gakpo's just spoken about a lot for the last 2 or 3 months. It'll be interesting to see him play if he plays on Thursday. Yeah, Southampton's a tricky one. Let me go 1-0 to the Arsenal. So, G, look, I'm to finish off.
You know what? I'm actually a bit worried about the PSV game. And the only reason why I say that, I mean, we're in a good position in the table, 3 games, wins. So, you know, it wouldn't be a disaster if we didn't get the 3 points. But I would obviously love it to be wrapped up on Thursday night. I think if we win, we qualify. So I'm a little bit worried, and I think it's just based on the fact of the last two performances. I think Arteta rotated the squad, last week in Europe, and it wasn't a great performance. I think Leeds, again, wasn't a great performance. So, but as Kenny said, he hit the nail on the head. You've got to trust your squad. So, I want to see rotation. We have to give these players a chance. The likes of Marquinhos and Eddie, they've got to start against PSV, and we've got to just trust that they can come in and they can deliver and they can get a result. And by no means can we afford to prioritize PSV over Southampton at all, regardless of their league position. I think they're sitting in at 17th, I think, or that's something correct. Like that.
Yeah.
So people will look at that and say, we're just going to steamroll it. And we're not. There's no easy games in the Premier League, that's for sure. So I think I'm going to go for a draw midweek. I think Arteta will rotate, but I don't think we'll get the win at home. I think I'm going to go for a 2-2 Thursday night against PSV, which for me would be a decent result if we do rotate as much as I think we should. And I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 win against Southampton.
That's it, man. Another 3 points in the bag would go nicely. But big up to you too, man. Kenny, Ken, and G Talk. Big up to people in the chat. Thank you for joining me in the weekly surgery practice in Albert JTV's household. Kenny, Ken, where can the people find you, Fred? He's gone. He paused, man. Oh, Kenny, man. Let's bring it back. G, where can we come back? Maybe we'll come back. Bring it back. We'll bring it back.
But you know what? It's always an absolute pleasure, man. Sharing the same platform as you, bruv. So absolutely appreciate obviously the invite again. Can't wait to come back soon. But people just follow me on Twitter is where I do most of my stuff. Really, I share my opinions. Sometimes people agree, some people don't, but as long as we keep it civil, it's all good. So you can just follow me at G Talks Arsenal. So on Twitter. Follow me, I'll follow you, drop me a DM, whatever. But absolute pleasure. Thank you for those that have tuned in, and bless up.
Kenny, have I got you back? Oh, I thought I had him back, man. He's just moving a minute ago.
He's back.
Oh, Kenny, let me take him out.
He needs to get the shout out, man. He needs to get the shout out.
Oh no, let's get people. I'm gonna say that. Let me see if we get him back. He's there. Kenny Ken?
Yeah, he's there. He's there.
Never way, mate. You know what's happening, right? Man's been using 4G, man, and messing around with 4G and Wi-Fi. Because whenever the 4G goes down, I charge the Wi-Fi. So that's why I go in and out. So, but so you can find me at Kenny Ken 1972, preferably on Instagram. Arsenal Twitter has won. They've won the battle, mate. It is one of the most. You know what it is? It's not nice. It's not a nice place because there's too many people who are judgmental, and there's too many people who think that they're the best fan in the world. So there's too many cliques in there. Everyone wants to be a great guy, but I always believe a great person, look knows the difference between right and wrong. Don't just sit there and let someone get bullied because you don't want to put your head over the parapet. But when it's someone who's not well liked, you're all ready to join in. Nah, drop me out of there, mate. Drop me out of there, Arsenal Twitter, mate. Thanks, but no thanks, mate. I'll just go on Instagram where I've got control of my audience and I can have a laugh. That's the thing. Social media's meant to be a laugh, man. It's meant to be fun. Not this.
No, when it comes to football and YouTube, it isn't, man. We know only too well. We only know it too well. But Kenny, love having you on again, man. Love you, brother, man. Thank you.
Anyway, look after yourself.
Yeah, people. Albert JTV is over and out. Episode 17. As your host, Albert JTV. I see a few people have smashed the like button already. Keep doing it. Audio listeners, you've not been neglected. This will go out on the Spotify and the Anchor, and you can hear all the brothers' dulcet tones on the panel tonight, man. So that is Albert JTV over and out, people. Episode 17. See you soon. Come on, you Gunners.